Hey, wanted to share this cheap and easy Nav POD mount. So the little black piece you see there, I picked that up off of eBay. It's aluminum, basically all aluminum, and then the fasteners are all stainless steel, which is super cool. Those were 14 bucks for two of them. And then the white part you're seeing there, that's actually a cutting board I picked up at Walmart for 15 bucks. And I've got a ton of that because it's a huge one. Anyways, if you like this, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. And hit that bell icon if you want to see more of these videos. And we'll get right to it. Woohoo! I can't believe how hard this little tiny video has been to make. My GoPro acts up so badly now. Anyways, I have to make a mount, and let's take a look. So here's the parts I need the mount for. So if you look at that little bracket right here, sorry about that. That little bracket right there goes to the nav station, and then I need my wind instrument mounted to this. And then that whole wind instrument just kind of slides down, pops in place. But I'm trying to figure out how, to connect those two things together. And I was thinking if I get a piece of like starboard or something like that, then that would be ideal. And so I'm looking up, okay, where can I get starboard? West Marine's out of it, and then I Tap Plastics will sell me a sheet of it for like 40 bucks or something, a little tiny piece. And then and so I'm talking to my daughter, and she's sitting here cutting something on a cutting board, as you see in the background here. And I thought, that would work. And she's like, don't cut this cutting board, Mom will get mad. I'm like, no, I'll just go buy a cutting board for like 15 bucks. And then I'll have enough of the material to make any mount I want, which is super cool. So I bought this one at Walmart, and it's 15 by 20, and it was $14.95 or something like that for a cutting board. Now I'll just cut a piece out the size I want. I'll save the rest for later as soon as I need something else. And I've got it. And I don't have to wait 2 weeks to try and get the dang starboard that I have to order from somebody. Alright guys, so this is what I want right here. This little cutout. It's going to be my bracket, and I'm just going to cut it with a hacksaw. So one of the funny little pieces, I didn't mark the lines because I was actually going by this line right here where there's an indent. That's like the drip tray thing. That was going to be my line there. So I ended up cutting that piece off because my hacksaw won't go all the way down to the bottom. And then I'm going to have to cut it to right here. Alright, so I'm using my hacksaw, cut that off, cut a little corners off too, and just so I had one solid piece there. And there it is. And then I'm getting in my little belt sander. I got a mini belt sander I picked up at Harbor Freight. That thing's been so cool. Anyways, round out the corners, and I took a razor blade and just cut off all the little edge pieces, and we have one final piece. All right, so a couple things I've been learning along the way, because I have half my tools, half my parts at the boat, half my parts, half my tools at home. So I'm laying everything out first. So what I need to do, so this is going to be mounted directly on top of here, like that. Okay, that looks all nice. Except then I need to bolt this to this, and I can't have a bolt sticking up through here because then it'll be sticking up through here. So what I want to do, and it makes sense or not, so I'm going to drill these two holes to bolt this to here on the other side, and then I've got two of these which are low profile screws or bolts, and then I am going to countersink those the right size. Now the thing is, I don't really have exact countersink size, so I'm going to do a little oversized. I'm going to countersink them first. Otherwise, it's really difficult once the hole's in there to try and countersink it. But I'm going to do it with a hole saw because I don't have a countersinking bit. So my little trick here is to countersink it with a hole saw partway through, then drill the holes, and then I should be able to bury these heads into this so that it's flush, and I can mount this flush to that. Make sense? Yeah, I guess so. Probably. So that hole saw turns out to be exactly the right size for those two bolts that I had. The heads of those bolts fit in perfectly. And the hole saw is almost exactly the same size as that drill bit I was using. So it fits in perfectly, and I can screw those in. It sort of tapped the plastic there as well. So it works out perfectio. All right, for the first attempt, I was really close, but not quite there with making it flush. So this time, as you can see, it's flush. And luckily for me, and this wouldn't be for everybody, luckily for me, the bit that fits into that hole to the hole cutting bit was nearly exactly the same size as the bit that I'm drilling with for these screws. That was lucky because I had to go at it again and drill that out a bit further. If you make that hole too big, you can't put that back in there and cut and re-countersink it. So a countersinking bit would fix that, but I don't have one here, so this is what I've got. That's what I'm going to do, and it worked out for me. So now I've got them both countersinked correctly, and we'll mount the other piece to that now. The coolest thing about this little clamp is, so that you see the mount here, and this thing swivels right here, so I can put that goes around the bar, and then I can swivel this gauge is any direction I want, up, down, so it can go tilting like that, which is super cool. And that's going to be right down about that level, and then so I'll be able to swivel it up a little bit so you can see it really easy from standing at the wheel. It'll be perfect. Awesome. All right, what is the next chore on the list? And this is wiring. So I have hooked up the Ray Marine chart plotter and the wind instruments. At least I've mounted them, and now I've got to hook them up, and I need power. So here is the pedestal. Here's how I mounted some things here. Take a look at the chart plotters here, and my wind instrument here, all pointed here. Then I've got depth and my speed log. And so what I need to do is I need to get into some power, and underneath here, so I've been looking at this, I can pull this whole pedestal apart. The wires go down through the pedestal and back down in there. But I've got a power and a ground lead here. And so I'm gonna cut into those and wire in my chart plotter there. It's a good place as any. And actually not very much work to do that. So I can seal, I've got everything to seal those wires back up, so it'll be nice and tidy. And then right up into the thing, and I don't have to pull that much apart. And if I ever have to go back at it, it'll be right here. So here we go. So I've got these to cut, and we're gonna go right into those wires there. Let me do that now. Oh, right before I wire this stuff up, I wanted to show you guys what I am doing here. I've got a whole box of shrink wrap and a spool of heat shrink. And so I preset the shrink wrap up in on the wires and just shoved it all the way back up in here so I can pull that all the way back down. And on the other side, I put a piece on this side, and then on this I put a larger piece here, if you can see that. And that shrink wrap's going to extend this one all over the other ones that end up coming back down. So some slick connectors I have here, and these little connectors all have shrink tubing on them, so they're made with shrink tubing. So when you take one of these and you wire them in, it shrinks down on both sides of the wire, so that waterproofs it a bit, and then having the shrink tube over the top of that will make it completely watertight. All right, I want to show you guys my finished product here, and this is the wires coming out of the nav unit, back down, zip tied in place, and then we've got it wired in here to power and ground, so we didn't have to go very far. And then the rest of the wire is spooled right behind the table here, and that is it. The wind instrument is completely wireless and takes no power. It actually has a little solar panel on it. To show you that really quick, so the solar panel on the top of it right here, turn it on and that's all set. And then up the mast also has a little solar panel at the top of that. So we are set. Now we have navigation and wind speed and direction. Perfect.